So this episode is not about how to figure out your niche that you don't care about. Teaching Italian to marine biologists? Who does that? Now, creating a random niche by putting together random pieces is one way of going about it, but it's not the only one. And today I will share with you something that's worked for me and hundreds of other online language teachers that I've coached over the years. By the way, if you're new here, my name is Elena Motonono and I help online language teachers move away from one-to-one classes and work more sustainably. This video is, of course, a tiny overview, but if you want to dive deeper, I have a workshop available along with a workbook. You can scan the code and click the link in the description. The foundation of my approach to niching is making it simple in the beginning, not overthinking. Choosing what you love so you can stick with it long term, and infusing your niche with your personality. Another important aspect to keep in mind is that your niche is always evolving. It's especially important to note for teachers of rare languages that have less representation online for now. If you teach English, for instance, you know that the market is oversaturated and you really need to take some effort and make your niche more unique from the get-go. But if you're teaching less common languages that have fewer teachers online, like Catalan or Hungarian or Japanese or Ndebele, you can, for now, just show up and be the first on YouTube. Create your own podcast and do really well. Well, up to a point. Most teachers I've worked with in my community discovered over a few years that their cozy, uncontested niche in a small language field has over the years become more crowded, and that is normal. Now you're only one of 10 people teaching Hungarian on YouTube. Tomorrow you're one of 50 people, and suddenly you have competition. And the new traffic cares less that you've been around for way longer. They love the new people who, though not as experienced as you, take more risks and know a whole lot more about video editing. And so the unfinished business with niching is now coming front and center. You can get mad at the people who come in and take your space, but instead of this unproductive banter, consider it an invitation to get back to work and give niching the attention it deserves. So in my approach, I share 5 main elements of niching. I want you to stick to the end and don't miss the last one because I don't hear it talked about a lot. Speaking of niching, my niche is helping burnt out online language teachers who teach mainly one-to-one classes on bigger platforms scale their businesses in manageable and time-effective ways without huge investments of time and money. If you want to transition out of one-to-one classes into teaching through voice chats and stand the competition with the AI, sign up to get my free Smart Teachers Kit. There's a link in the description. Oh, back to the 5 elements. Number 1, your passion. You need to do what you're passionate about. Not maybe passionate, but really passionate. Something that you lose track of time doing. It's necessary to keep that component in mind because when you're passionate about something, and when things get really difficult or you make a mistake or fail, which happens in business, you are able to keep going because at the very least, the thing that you're doing is so inspiring to you. In coaching, I always ask people who are in test prep niches whether they really enjoy doing it or they're doing it only because they think there's a large demand. Now, nothing wrong, by the way, with choosing a niche because of the demand or because students are motivated and pay good money. But if you detest showing up for that, it'll be 10 times harder to create content and really attract people to your brand. Okay, now element number 2, your values. Your business isn't just about a hype thing, but about something that matters to you. It matters to me that I work with the underdog teachers who form the backbone of all of these big platforms. And it matters to me that they get a fair pay. And it matters to me that they show up with energy and enthusiasm. And it matters to me that they're not burned out. These are some of the values I have when it comes to helping people I work with, and I share those values. When you know your values, you can say not just what you do, but why you do it. So why it matters to you and why it should matter to other people. Element number 3 is your expertise. Now, this is pretty foundational. Of course, you can't create a business about something that you're not knowledgeable about. That destroys trust. If you're not a marine biologist, don't teach Italian to marine biologists. If you're not at all familiar with food industry, don't be that teacher who teaches chefs. It will all come up in your marketing, and your lack of familiarity with the subject matter will not be helpful as you try to build trust and then sell products. Element number 4 is your story. Ideally, your story is a part of your business. It's at the core of many successful businesses out there. Choose your ideal business and go Google their origins. There's a story there. Ollie Richards, for instance, started story learning because he found this method helpful in his own language journey. Martin Johnston with Rock and Roll English Podcast and Community started the podcast because he wished it had something familiar when he was learning Italian. Alfione Waters from allaboutitalian.com started her retreats because she heard people's frustration about traveling to Italy and constantly having to switch back to English and not being able to practice their Italian. Now, she lives in a smaller town where it's unlikely that anyone will speak to you in English, and this is the town she loves and is passionate about. So she decided to invite her students or followers to come and join her on this retreat. I started coaching teachers not about some abstract business tips, but rather how to make their business sustainable. At some point, I achieved my earnings ceiling with one-to-one classes, got burned out, created a clumsy, super expensive online course that didn't sell, and decided to try using voice chats and Google Docs. This passion to help other teachers do the same turned into a coaching business and a community called the Smart Teachers Library for teachers building sustainable business so that they have the freedom to do the work that they love. Your story must be a part of your niche if you want to stand out. In fact, when you incorporate your story, you'll be able to stand out of many other people who just provide quick language tips. Element number 5, your desire to make a change in the world. Now, that sounds so complicated. What change do you seek to make with your work? Change the world is just dramatic, but it's something that fuels your work. At the core of this question that I heard in Seth Godin's marketing seminar, there's the question of making meaning over money. To quote another marketing expert, Guy Kawasaki, he used to say, if you set out trying to make meaning, you will be able to make money. But if you set out trying to make money, you will not make money and not make much meaning. The change that inspires me is creating a tiny corner of this online language teaching world where your regular teachers who hustle one-to-one hours, maybe have smaller audiences, have the equal chance to thrive by creating a business that works for them. Standing up for the underdog, reaching out to a person who I once was, an overworked college teacher living in Ukraine who had to put in 12 hours a day just to make a decent living and then couldn't find the time to go spend that money, is something that drives me. Then I moved to the US and I became an immigrant that had to constantly teach one-on-one, and that was overwhelming. So I've worked with teachers like that. I've also worked with teachers living in all corners of the world. But I'm really passionate about helping those who feel like they have very little to offer, or they don't know how to monetize their growing audience, even if it's fairly large. So what's your niche? Which of the elements do you still need to work on? Please share in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe as it helps more online teachers